Well, it just wouldn't be a work week without some sort of mistake. So I in the podcast you're about to hear, I brag about, like I have a new setup, I'm happy with it. I had done, probably 3 checks before I started filming, like all right, it's in position. I set it up again, stays in position, set it up again. The final time I set it up, it tilted forward. So it cut off my head in the frame like here. So I didn't really want to have an awkward video. So this week's episode is audio only, and I appreciate your patience with it. And I hope you can still enjoy what I'm chatting about in this episode. I talk, a bit about, what's on my mind and what things I'm working on and things I'm enjoying about the process and, bumps along the way. But hopefully you have a good week and this can be part of it. So thanks again for listening. Hello, everyone. It's that time again where I'm on a podcast and you're listening to it. That seems like a fair trade, right? You're listening to a podcast. I happen to be on it, making this podcast right now. And that tends to be how podcasts go. So let's stick to that tradition. And let's just start talking about stuff. How's about that? Is that a fair trade? So, my microphone needs adjusting already. I feel like it always dips too low. That's what I'm finding. But as you can see, I have a new angle. I'm trying this out. I think it's going to be the default for when I'm filming in this room. And I'll tell you why. First of all, it frames the green screen. Obviously, I still need to have it set up a little bit better so that it's a little bit more taut and it's, a little bit more framed in a shot. But this allows me to create whatever backdrop I need to do or insert myself into a media clip or whatever. So when I do get some lighting, a couple extra lights that I want to get, some bright ones that allow me to, work with the green screen a little bit better. At least from what I've heard, it's all about how bright certain lighting is and then what accent lightings you have. I don't have any accent lighting right now, and I want to play around with that. I feel like I've said this in the past, and if this podcast isn't anything, it's aspirational. I aspire to do a lot of things, and I'm inspired to do a lot of things. That's why I even started podcasting in the first place, was because I've been seeing people do it and not only have fun with it, but make whole careers out of it. Like, just the sheer amount of what they're able to do in a podcast format with the audio and the video, what constitutes a podcast. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. This is my most stripped down one. It's me and this little piano, which, by the way, I'm happy to have a piano sound back this week. Last week I felt it was a little, the clav didn't give me a lot of options. But the piano sound from Keyscape it just is so smooth. It's so nice and full. But I've been seeing people do podcasts for years. I've been seeing people on Patreon for years. I, you know, but like some people they aspire to be, you know, like I want to work for this company, and if I could just be in that company and work for it forever, that'll be awesome. Or like I aspire to, I just want to be, make enough money to where I can, get a small boat and just enjoy some fishing trips on the weekends. You know, like some people have those goals. Mine has always been a mixture of what do I like doing and how do I get people to pay me to do it. And this is before Patreon was even a thing, before internet patronage for people doing something on the internet was even a thing. Like now, all these platforms, Twitch, YouTube, even Facebook has payment integration now. If you want to, do paid online events or like set up a tip jar, and Facebook, I have a lot of problems with it, but I stream on it once a week, so I figure I should figure out how to do things on it. I'm going to be spending a lot of this week formatting, getting things visually restructured, not only for the streams, but for just how I present certain things. Thus, the simple angle change in my office. Like this gives me a better sense of like, all right, if after I'm done filming this, I'm going to take some tape and just kind of mark the ends of where the stand are, where the closest part of the stand, I'm going to mark them so I know I'm going to place them right here. And this is a good front facing shot. Because I like Charles Cornell, his content, and he's always had a nice setup where it's like ample lighting. You can see the piano. It feels like you're having more of a face to face with him, rather than me like turned to the side or like looking up. I'm I'm wanting to just do these little tweaks. I'm even thinking about getting. I'm gonna check on Craigslist the listing. There's an iPhone XS Max that someone is selling for $200. I'm gonna see if I can talk him down another $20 to $40. Maybe I'm gonna start at $150 and then see where it goes from there. But I'm gonna have to drive to Holland to get this phone, so I don't want to. I want to factor in like, all right, I'm getting this phone. I'm paying him $200, but I want it to be $200 in terms of I pay him $160 and then gas or something. You always try to get a little bit of a deal. He's got an older phone model, but the XS Max, it introduced stereo video or stereo audio capture for video for the phone, and it has an improved camera. It's not quite the 11. It's not going to be the 12, but for $200, it's like getting another video camera, and it's got more memory, so I can use it as a dedicated video camera instead of paying, thousands of dollars or $1,000 for like a high-end camera. I don't have that type of, money or need for it just yet. So to have an extra phone that's a dedicated camera will free up my other phone to be, I can look at chats. I can, fiddle around with more apps. I can have figure out what a 2 iPhone system could mean. I could have one facing camera and one overhead camera. I could switch between stuff. The possibilities. So I'm hype on that. Hype on these small changes that like feel more like this is a set. It's getting closer to that kind of vibe. But I also don't mind the intimacy of inviting you into my mess because so often we see the the prim and the proper and the presentation and the curation and the carefully placed plants and the color edited footage and the airbrush photos. There's so much of it. And I saw a post yesterday that was talking about the post you don't really see on Instagram or Facebook. They were joking, but all it was a post about was they bought a bed frame, and that was something I could relate to because when I first moved out, I was on like a mattress, or I had a mattress, but I had it wasn't a box spring. It was just kind of like it was just like a platform I could just stick my mattress on. So it kind of was a bed frame, box frame. I don't know the technical term, but I had that, and it was fine. And then I spent a couple years, without a bed frame. I just took my mattress and slept on the floor. And then I had a year where I slept in the worst dorm mattress I think I've ever slept in. It was like a plastic cot. It felt, it was too small. It was uncomfortable. It felt like I never could get like a comfortable night's sleep. The floor was all tile, and I had like one carpet square, so I felt like I was sleeping in like a bathroom. It was so uncomfortable. Not worth, saving money on rent, I think, in the long run. Sure, could I have furnished it better? Sure. Could I have done better to maintain my health and wellness than just being inside of that room a lot of the day, a lot of the time I spent in that year in Kalamazoo? Yes. There's a lot of what ifs, but you can only do what you can only do, and it's I don't know, it's interesting, but I then went a year without a mattress or a platform because I couldn't fit it in my room, and I think it's still in the garage at my house. It's been 3 years, but I last year with the boosted unemployment, I bought a bed frame because I'm a liberal snowflake who wastes money on such luxuries as a bed frame. It's so it's so funny that people who get upset of like, how dare they spend this money on something that it's like, I don't shame other people for spending money. So I bought a bed frame and I felt a little guilty because I was like, do I need this? Like I should be focusing on because I'd already bought equipment and I had already I'd spent the money on what would help me work, and I was working on stuff. So a bed frame, I was like, oh, do I really need it? Like I should just keep sleeping on the floor and just worry about that later. But with the bed frame, it gave the one I bought has under bed storage, so it changed everything. It changed how my room was able to function for that whole year. I was able to store stuff under my bed, free up some more floor space. The room I have is tiny, so there's not a lot of space to begin with. It's very limiting. I have a bed, and then I have my desk chair, and I can get out of bed at the foot of the bed, sit in the desk chair, and if I swivel one way, it's facing my desk to do work, to do whatever. It's where I edit a lot of videos. And then if I turn the other way, it's where all of my game systems are set up. And I like to pretend that I have the time to play all these different kinds of games. I'm debating what ones I want to keep out and set up and what ones I want to put into storage. Because right now all I'm playing is stuff on the PS5 because it's the new console. And I know I'm going to go back to the Switch at some point. I want to alternate between a game like Stardew Valley. I want to get back into that and go into God of War on the PS5 because of the upscaled and the better performance and stuff. I want to replay that game because I never beat the Valkyrie challenges. And if you have played that game, you fight these Valkyries as kind of a side mission thing, and it's a difficult battle. But if you beat the Valkyries, you get rewards for each defeated Valkyrie. But then the last challenge is you have to fight all of the Valkyries in a row, and then the head Valkyrie, who kind of is a mixture of fighting styles from all the other Valkyries you faced. It is super hard. And I had made it to that person. Didn't beat it. It's the only thing I haven't really beat in that game. And I want to, refresh myself on the story because the new one's going to come out at some point in the next year, I think. So, I don't know. But the last week has been seeing what I as I kind of vocalized the need to let's play some sad music. It's kind of sad. As I vocalized to the last week to get healthy and lose weight and stop eating lots of delicious bad foods, or rather addictive bad foods. There's more delicious foods out there than what I'm letting myself enjoy. As I vocalize this, I have really taken stock in the rest of my life, the rest of my surroundings. What little things could I improve? Like, oh, do I need to have this sitting there? Oh, why does it like, do I need to get rid of some clutter? Do I need to go on another round of Goodwill purchases, donations? Or not necessarily Goodwill. Goodwill is a recognized brand and easy, but also kind of problematic. There's some problems with it, how the companies run and how they employ people and all that stuff. So I think one thing I needed to change with my room is make it even more comfortable. One thing I've been doing is, taking stock in how much stuff I have and how I can rearrange the storage of it, making more use of my basement to store things. It's hard. That's why I'm playing sad music. You're probably like, why is he playing sad music? These all sound like positive changes. Well, I'm playing sad music because it's the siren song of adulting. It's 3 chords incessantly playing. They're just like, oh, you've got bills, you've got taxes, you have to make actual business decisions that impact your future. You can't just hide and hope that no one finds you. You can't really just pretend. Certain things don't need to be addressed. You could, but it's not healthy and it shortens your lifespan and your ability to work with other people. And no bueno. But there is hope. That's why you play a major chord. Just there's hope. So the hope is that if I'm not dumb about how I conduct myself and how I, I guess how I what goals do I set realistically? Because I can't turn on the overdrive version of all right, I'm gonna do this and this and I'm gonna do this and all these changes are gonna happen because I've done it before. I've had to change radically, and it's no, remember when you did that and that it either didn't work or there was a problem with keeping the consistency, or you felt overwhelmed and burnt out, and then you fell back in old habits. It's yeah, I know. So is my life. Because last week I audited myself as a boss, and I'm the kind of boss that will work their employee out of sheer, you know, like as much enthusiasm as I can, but without being realistic to a timeline. I've I've been so tired the last couple weeks. I partially blame the vaccine. Even though everyone's like, "No, dude, you work really hard and you've taken a break from caffeine and you're not getting enough sleep." And you're like, "That doesn't add up. It's the vaccine." And it's like, "No, it's probably all those other things." Cuz I am vaccinated, like I mentioned, sure in the last episode, but um I I've had this fatigue, and I've it's one of those things where, like, as an adult you have the, or at least you should have the cognitive ability to be like, I hear all these things that work for people and I haven't tried any of them. Maybe that's what I should do, is try some of them, like get enough sleep, eat food that's normal, uh go exercise. I've been trying to go on walks more. Probably will need to get to running at some point, even though running is like it. I used to do it. I used to do it all the time for sports. I used to do it for cross country. I used to do sports, but then that you don't learn. I realize you don't learn how to work out unless you play a sport like football, where there's kind of a mix of cardio, weights, other sort of training and conditioning. Baseball is a lot of running, and fielding. So a lot of being able to be quick on your feet and have enough strength to like throw a ball fast or a certain distance. Um, and then soccer is like you just got to keep moving. Unless you're a goalie, you just got to kind of keep on your toes, be alert, let the keep an eye on what's going on in the field. Don't get distracted. Um, Anticipate things, react proactively. If something's bunched up on the left side of the field and they take a shot and you block the shot, you kick it down the right side of the field. That shifts how everything's played. You might have people open. You might be able to take a couple people on the right and push forward to shoot a goal. Like, sports. But I never did. There was never like, oh, make sure you get the diet. It's just like I'm eating food and I'm young enough where I can kind of muscle through bad choices. But now I'm approaching the elder statesman age of 30, where I want to have 30 to 40 to be this transformative time where I feel even better, because the latter half of my 20s, it wasn't like I was like, oh man, I feel like the best person ever. It was like most of it I was like tired, a lot of caffeine, too much alcohol, not enough sleep, working way too hard, getting super anxious, feeling like I don't have anything going on, uh, or I don't have the right kind of momentum, even though, contrary to all of my doubts, I have made progress. I can recognize that. I recognize that part of my brain will always have this like, don't do it because you're stupid, and no one likes it. And then the other part of your brain is like, no, you come this far, you're gonna quit now. They're both from like they both immigrated to the Bronx. Both sides of my brain are not from the Bronx. They immigrated, so that's why this accent. But I see the good and the bad, the positive, the negative, all this stuff. everything everything all the time swirls around my head. I can't see a perspective without understanding the other side of the argument. I can't see something flash in the media with bright red lights, even though I don't watch mainstream media, like, without also thinking of the antithesis on the same platforms. Like, context is all, like, I love history, and context is like all about history. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy how many things we're still repeating. And I heard I heard probably the best quote that I unintentionally, didn't even didn't even process as a negative. It was a quote that was saying like, yeah, these, this guy, the stuff he's rapping about or the things he's talking about, they're still relevant today. Like, thinking of someone like George Carlin, or you know hip hop artists in the 90s, or you know artists in the funk generations growing up in the late 60s and 70s, like, oh, what they're saying, it's still relevant today. And it's like, that's not a good thing. What do you do? It's like, it's good in the sense that it helps bridge the generational gap and helps educate people on the same subjects and stuff. But it's not good because that means nothing's changed or things have changed slowly, or only certain things have changed. It's like, think of this. I had a friend who worked for Steelcase, years ago, and part of his job was to assess the different types of furniture they were putting out and figure out ways to make it eco-friendly. Now, eco-friendly for you and me might be being more cognizant of how we recycle. Maybe start composting if you're like a level up dude and you want to like start composting. Maybe it's about, being mindful of what types of cleaning products you use. Like maybe you're concerned about like, oh, well, I use this cleaner in the bathroom and I know it goes into the drain into our water system, and I know, filtration only gets so much out of it, and the threshold, I feel like the threshold is, minutely increased to allow certain parts per million of certain chemicals to exist in our water supply, because it's, it gets contaminated at so many different places, from like, groundwater contamination to, everyday use, even just brushing your teeth or like using the bathroom. Like it's all a big swirling, confusing thing. And and that's like, oh, I want to make sure, I'm going to buy a hybrid car. I'm not going to go full electric. I'm going to buy a hybrid. I'm going to save some money on gas. I'm going to use an electric car. I'm going to buy used so that I don't, I'm not buying something that introduces another potential car into the market. Like, that's stuff we think about. But for a big company like Steelcase, they're looking on the cost effective end, and then the marketing end of eco-friendly. So the cost-effective end would be, here's a good example. There was a time where my friend had found a certain adhesive, right? And there was an adhesive that was used in the manufacturing of this furniture. Very small component adhesives. It's not like the chair's covered in glue, but this small component of adhesive had a certain chemical makeup, and it wasn't super toxic. Like, if you licked the chair, if I don't know, if you have a kid or a dog that licks chairs, you wouldn't get any sort of toxicity poisoning. But this other company made a similar adhesive that was a percentage less toxic. It had a certain component of the chemical makeup that was used in a smaller degree than the other adhesive that had been in use on the production line. So that's a win for a company like Steelcase, because yes, they have to think about like, okay, if we change the adhesive to something that costs X amount more, it's going to affect the cost of production down the chain. Every 10,000 furniture items, it's going to have like X amount of dollars attached to it for this one decision. So in their eyes, if they can make a small decision like that then they can turn around and say, our chairs, we're thinking about the environment, and our chairs are much more environmentally friendly than our competitors, because we've decided to change how we think about furniture, what we think furniture even is, and where we can source and create the next line of comfortable furniture for your office, for your home. Like, they just, the ad writes itself. They don't need to say like, oh, it's only eco-friendly because we changed adhesives. It might be the same, like it might be different shapes of designs. It might be the same materials, the same plastics, the same, whatever. But they can call it eco-friendly because they changed one small part of it. That's like if I were to recycle, you know, and I had like two empty cans, and I I rinsed out one thoroughly so that it wouldn't, pose a problem, and then the other one I just dumped out the soda. It's like, sure, the soda inside that one's gonna dry, but it's not, and it's still less clean. But I'm also still buying a soda can. There's still, a chunk of manufacturing of soda that doesn't come from recycled materials, because the recycling is more complicated than throw all your stuff in a bin and it's gone forever. Like a lot of it ends up in landfills because people don't have the bandwidth to take a little extra time, like 10 minutes, sort through your recycling. Or like even as you're putting stuff in the recycling receptacle, like do the checklist, all that stuff. I don't know. It doesn't seem that hard to, rinse something out, to check if something can even be recyclable, to look up a chart, print it out, and have it, above where you normally recycle to help people. Like stuttering all over the place. So all that to say, what was I saying? How did we get to here? Adulting decisions. Adulting. I think that's what I was talking about. Mainly I have to make those minute decisions. Those little things that affect over a long period of time, because that's really how change happens. Like there's some, there's like a lot of what we as people are conditioned to in terms of change. Here's my big brain argument. What I've observed from the common man who has studied long and hard about what is life and who are we and where do we come from and who tells us what to do? Is it us or is it an external force? Is it our environment or people around the community? It's more that people, they watch a show and they're like, oh, the bad guy got caught. We did it. Problem solved. Superman caught the villain. He's not blowing up the city. Olivia Benson caught that perp. He caught him. The dude was a CEO of a company. Olivia caught him and threw him in prison. It's like, okay. Or, I don't know, SpongeBob beat Man Ray with Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. Very clear. Like, there's the bad thing. We only got so much time to solve it. Now it's solved. So the problem's gone, right? And it's like, no. If the problem was done, like if on SVU they caught like like this dude's a politician who runs this operation, and it's connected to all these things. It's like, we caught him. He was the top of the pyramid. It's like, no, because if you play the Spider-Man game on PS4, you know that the premise of the game is that Peter Parker catches Kingpin, and all of him and his associates, or a lot of his associates, go to prison. And then, you know, he says, like, you'll be sorry, I was the one keeping everything in order. And then, of course, with the dude at the top gone, all these rival gangs, all these super powered freaks, all start to try and carve out a piece of the city. They all want to be the next Kingpin. So it would be, for Law and Order to be like, oh, we caught the head guy, the series would end. It's like, no, every week there's it's like, this guy did this. This woman was caught doing this. This person, like, it's happening all the time. So we're conditioned to see, like, this is the problem. A very public shaming and condemnation of the problem is dealt with by getting rid of a certain person. And it's like, no, because there's a culture that enables certain types of behavior that are, it's bad. And you have to, root out the problem in a longer process. That's why the civil rights movement wasn't a weekend. And to an extent, it's still going on in certain cities and communities. Did people think the civil rights era was like, well, that was 6,000 years ago? That was so long ago. It was like, no, my parents were alive during the civil rights movement. My grandparents, very much alive. Probably my great-grandparents. So it's like people that I know that are still alive knew of all of that. They knew that they were living in the houses of that time, with the technology of that time, with the certain shared experiences, the mixture of how stuff was told in fact basis versus propaganda, all this stuff. So to say that because, Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream that racism is done, that's not true. Or to say that, like, because I got my oil changed, my car is just gonna be fixed forever, is like, that's not true. There's upkeep. You have to pay attention and keep up with. That's why owning a car isn't necessarily fun if you don't have a lot of money, like I do. It's like owning a car is just like, I have to get things from point A to point B, and I like the ability to just get in my car and go where I need to go, do what I need to do. But I understand that, and I'm thinking about it this week, because I have a little extra money. I can go get my routine oil change. Like, that doesn't cost a lot of money. But I'm going to get my muffler fixed. Like, I don't want to do it. It's dumb, but I've been driving with a noisy muffler for about a month, and it doesn't need a quick fix. It needs, like, more TLC from a specialist. So I'm going to take my car in and then see what they recommend. But it's the same thing with, diet and exercise. I know I can't lose 5 million calories worth of food. How much would that be? That'd probably be it'd be like my whole existence. I'd lose all of the weight, and then my, the weight that's healthy. I know I can't get healthy in a weekend. I know it's gonna be bumpy and messy, and it's gonna be fighting all of my normal habits, all of my normal things in my environment. But if I can, take some time and make the right choices, make the right moves, then I'll be better for it. fun to improvise. It's fun. Like, okay, before I wrap this up, because I feel like I need to do more improvisation than just a topic list. Like, let's talk about whatever. This improvisation will be a lesson of how I think about improvising. So let's start with this C minor chord. I've tossed in the 9 for that nice little rub against the 3rd. I'm going to do the top voice, which starts on a B flat. And I'm gonna sing my thought process. So we'll start there. As I like. So, I did one note for a lot of stuff. Very simple movement. Very simple stuff. But the movement of how I thought about the improvising changed. So I did the like C minor to D minor. And then when I went to the first time, it's kind of like a E flat sus7 to, you know, like an E major 7 with that 13 in there. And then I used this note as the flat 9 to pivot back to the C minor. But then the second time around, I went B flat minor to B, like a B major 7. And then I can't really remember what I did after that. I did more movement. I kind of just played around with, you know, like when I hit that E, I hit the E. I just changed the quality of the F major 7 to an F major 7 with a sharp 5, and that kind of gives it like a hinting of a dominant, because you have, if you put a G in the bass, you have a flat 5 with the 9 and the 13. So, you know, it's kind of setting up naturally. I wasn't thinking too much about it. I was just kind of thinking like, oh, if I alter the chord, it gives it a certain tonality. But it also kind of, it sets up the ear as like, it's kind of a long transition back to a 5. I don't know. Schenkerian analysis is funny if you look up what that is. It's like everything is just tonic, and then like you know, I think it's like everything's tonic and then 4 and 5. So like you can break down a whole piece as like, this is the tonic, and then like there's a point where it shifts to a subdominant, and then oh, here's the dominant, and then it goes back to to the tonic, and it's like a giant arc. Even though it might change keys, even though it might do whatever, like Schenkerian's like it tries to abstract everything to like a very long, at least from my understanding. If you're a Schenker diehard fan, you can correct me. But I think that's where I'm going to end it. I don't know how much time I've done, because this is the first time I've done it with the better camera facing at me, so I don't have a timer in front of me, and I forgot to switch over the timer on Pro Tools. So I assume you've been thoroughly entertained. Maybe I've done the same amount of time. Maybe I'm used to it now that I'm 14 episodes in. But thanks for listening. Thanks for coming in and hearing me chat about stuff. If you dig anything I do, whether it's how I play music or, I don't know, talk to you about stuff, hopefully not at you. Hopefully it feels like you're learning and not just being like, oh, this guy just talks to me like he should just be talking to someone in person. Trying to be transparent here. This is my way of being transparent on a longer scale. So, if you dig it, you can support me in a few ways. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Comment. I'm getting better at checking comments. I want to hear your thoughts. What do you dig about it? What do you not like about it? All that good stuff. And you can support me on different social platforms. I tend to be most active on Facebook and Instagram. I also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Snedeker, where you can get episodes for podcasts like these early and behind-the-scenes live streams for the other podcasts, as well as a host of other things related to merch from my bands and patron-exclusive merch and, more perks. And you can find it all at DutcherSnedeker.com. I'm going to be redoing the website over the next couple weeks, but everything is pretty current within the last couple years of significant things. So, we'll see you next time for more of something, because I don't have a plan. I'm literally going to end this, and then next week will be the first time that I'll think about what I'm going to talk about, pretty much. So come and chat. We're just going to slowly fade.